Today I will show you how to make a cake that not only tastes delicious but has also over 100 grams of protein. To start things off, I will place a bowl on a scale and then I will add in 80 grams of all-purpose flour. If you don't want to use regular flour, you could also grind oats and make your oat flour. In terms of macronutrients, they are both relatively similar. 100 grams of wheat flour has 364 calories with 10 grams of protein and around 3 grams of fiber. Oats on the other hand have 379 calories with 12.5 grams of protein and 12 grams of fiber. So obviously oats have a lot more micronutrients and more fiber, but wheat flour is not that unhealthy toxic thing that a lot of people might think. Regular wheat flour consumed in moderation is absolutely no problem if you want to lose weight. Also, wheat flour has a better texture in terms of cake consistency, and that is the main reason I'm using this. Next is 20 grams of coconut flour. This will add sweetness, will retain moisture, which is very important for low calorie cakes, and is on top packed with fiber. 35 grams of fiber for 100 grams of coconut flour. Now, let's talk about protein powder. There are mainly two different kinds of protein derived from dairy: whey and the less known casein. To understand how these work and which one to use, here's a small example. I will prepare two bowls where I will add 15 grams of protein each. Whey on the left side and casein on the right. Now I will also add 50 grams of water each and start mixing. Look at the whey protein first. It doesn't hold a lot of water and stays completely liquid. On the other hand, check out the casein. As I stir this, casein turns into a very thick, almost yogurt-like consistency. And the exact same thing happens in your cake later on. That is the reason why so many protein cakes are so super dry. It's because they are made with whey protein only and not casein, and thus doesn't hold a lot of water and simply dries out during baking. The problem with casein only, however, is that it doesn't rise properly even with baking powder because it's just too thick. That is the reason I use always both combined. 23 grams each or 46 grams in total, which is 1.5 scoops vanilla flavored. However, if you only have access to whey protein like a lot of people do, I would also add a mashed banana to the wet ingredients. This will help with making the cake juicier, but it will also add about 100 calories. The next ingredient is erythritol. I like this sweetener a lot more than stevia. It doesn't have this bitter aftertaste. 20 grams goes into the bowl. Now I will add in a small pinch of salt, half a teaspoon of baking powder and quarter teaspoon of baking soda. Mix this until everything is distributed evenly. The baking soda and baking powder are the main reason why cake recipes should be always made in two different bowls, one for dry, one for wet, and combined at the very end. I will show you why in a minute. So set the dry ingredients aside and place another bowl on a scale. I will start with 2 whole eggs. If you don't want the extra calories from the yolk, you can substitute every egg for 50 grams of liquid egg whites. However, I would recommend adding the yolks. They will make the cake juicier. Then I will add in cottage cheese with 1% fat. This is an exceptional protein source that has almost the same protein to calorie ratio like protein powder. 200 grams goes into a bowl. If you don't like cottage cheese, feel free to add in plain Skyr non-fat Greek yogurt. That will work as well. Then to add flavor, I will add 1 medium-sized orange. I will cut this in half and then I will squeeze in the juices. Don't squeeze in all of it, keep about a quarter of an orange juice for the frosting later on. Then, and this is optional, I will add in half a teaspoon each of cinnamon and ginger. This works perfect in combination with the orange. Mix it until everything is combined. See, if you would have added all the wet ingredients from the beginning, the baking powder and soda would immediately start to react and create bubbles, and then they would have less power once they're in the oven. That is the reason you should wait until the very end and then combine wet and dry to minimize unnecessary reaction. Now mix everything very carefully. Do not overwhip the batter. If you overwhip this, the flour will start to develop gluten, which will result in a dense cake and not a fluffy one. Remember, we have no sugar in this cake, which prevents gluten development, so we have to be extra careful. Also, you might need to add water if the batter is too thick. This is because of the casein powder. So just add a little bit of water at a time and keep stirring until you have a thick and creamy consistency like this. As a baking dish, I will use my meat prep container. They are the perfect size for this, 12 x 18 cm or 5 x 7 inches. The Amazon link is in the description. If you use another baking dish, that is fine, but you need to adjust the baking time and also the temperature. A thicker cake needs less degrees and more time in the oven, for example. So transfer everything in, and this now gets into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 F for 35 to 40 minutes. In the meantime, I will make a frosting. Into a small container, I will add in 50 grams of fat-free cream cheese, 50 grams of Skyr or Greek yogurt, and the rest of the orange juice. This is the base, and you can now choose to add cocoa powder, a serving of PB2, or just stick to vanilla like me and add in 10 grams of vanilla whey protein powder. Mix this until it turns into a creamy consistency that can be spread on top of the cake. 40 minutes later the cake is done. If you want to be absolutely safe, I would recommend buying a food thermometer. The inside of a cake should have at least 90 degrees Celsius or 194 F. I will let the cake cool down for about 20 minutes before removing it from the baking dish. Also, as you can see, it has this deep golden brown color. This is one of the reasons I use baking soda. It helps with speeding up the so-called Maillard reaction, which creates a lot of complex flavor compounds and is this brown color on top. So next time you make a cake, cut a little piece of this and try it. You will be surprised how good this actually tastes in itself. So I will first loosen up the cake by cutting the edges with a knife, remove it, and then spread the frosting on top so it looks like a delicious protein cake. I stored this in the fridge for 2 to 3 days and it still tastes pretty good. Look at the inside of this cake. It is fluffy, it is tender and super juicy. So the entire cake without the frosting comes in with 861 calories, 91 grams of carbs, 15 grams of fat and 87 grams of protein. With the frosting it's 960 calories and 105 grams of protein. Now that you know how to make a protein cake, you absolutely need to try out my fluffy protein pancakes. So click on this video and see you there.